Hello everyone, welcome back to my Road to 300,000 Gamerscore series, the series where I try to reach 300,000 Gamerscore by the end of 2024. Today, the game that I'm trying to perfect / get a bunch of achievements in is Trivial Pursuit. I started the game with playing the classic game mode in Trivial Pursuit. This game mode just had you answering questions, and then once you answered those questions you could earn wedges. You had to compete against I don't know what you would call them, enemy players, enemy computers, and they would also try to answer questions to compete for these wedges. Wedges were essentially something you would earn after answering so many questions right on different topics. These topics included entertainment, geography, arts and literature, science and nature, sports and leisure, and history. Each one of these topics, after you'd answer a few questions, you would earn one of these wedges. However, some of the achievements associated with this would be acquiring the wedge for that specific topic. So if you were working on history, you would have to answer all the questions associated with history before you earn the wedge without having an incorrect one, and that each one of those wedges had an achievement based around that. So entertainment, sports, art and literature, science, geography, and history each had an achievement related to essentially a flawless answering of those questions. The next game type that I worked on was playing Facts and Friends. This game mode was essentially the same thing. It just had a little bit different items that you could do and a few different achievements. Once again, those achievements included just answering all the questions correctly before you earned a wedge for each topic. So once again, pretty easy questions there. You didn't have to do it all in the same game. So if let's say you had a flawless victory for history and entertainment, sports, then that would mean the next game you would have to do geography, science, and arts and literature perfect the next game. You just had to make sure that whatever questions you were answering in that game, that you got all of those right. One of the new features that you could do was betting. So you could bet against essentially your friends if you thought they knew the answer or if you thought they were going to get the answer wrong. There were a few achievements based around this. Essentially, you could only earn wedges by betting. So if you told the game, no, I don't think they're going to get this question wrong, and they got the question wrong, you would get points towards one of those wedges. Or if you thought they were going to get it right, you would also earn points towards that as well. Of course, it's always still better to just get the questions right. However, there were achievements based around that. I think there was a few of them: placing 5 correct bets, 10 correct bets, and then once again winning all of your wedges by betting only. So there are a few achievements with that. Overall, it was pretty fun. There were also a few bonus mini games. One of those had an achievement called a wedge off. Essentially, you had to fight over a wedge. You could choose a friend's wedge that you wanted to earn, and you could go into essentially a quiz off, and you would try to earn that wedge and answer the questions that they were answering at the same point. Pretty simple achievement, especially when you're playing solo. You can make sure that the other person is getting the answer wrong. Pretty simple achievements. The next game mode that I played through was Clear the Board. In this game mode, essentially you're playing on the same board that all of the other game modes you're playing on. You just had to land on every space and answer every single question on that board. Of course, you didn't, in theory, have to get it right. But one of the achievements was, of course, having a flawless victory and getting every single one of those spaces correct. I tried to do this at first by just quickly trying to type the question into Google I didn't realize you could stop the timer. So I would try to type furiously, and of course, I got pretty close. Lots of times I would get about halfway through all of the questions and I would have the right answers, but what would stump me was some of the geography questions when you had to choose a location, and maybe like I wouldn't load it fast enough, or I know a few times, and it's going to sound dumb, New York and New Jersey were really close to each other on the map, and I would look at the map that popped up on Google, and I would say, this looks like the area that it should be in. However, it would be New Jersey, and I'd have to start over again. That took quite a long time, but overall, those achievements weren't too bad. Like I said, some of the ones that stood out were getting every single answer correct, clearing the board in 10 minutes. This took... it actually wasn't that hard when you think about it, especially once I learned you can just take the batteries out of your controller, stop the time, make sure you get the right answer, and just go super fast through it. Make sure you clear the board super fast. Or if you're landing on some of those wedge squares, let's say you land on a history question and it's the wedge square. If you get that right, it clears the board of all of the history squares, which really helps, and it really takes makes the time go really fast. I don't think there were anything else. Some of the big ones were completing all of the objectives. However, some of the objectives kind of carried over, like answering so many questions in a row. Well, if you're getting all the questions right, that it just carries over, so that's not too different. Another one would be clearing the board with no multipliers on any wedges. So that would mean just landing on a wedge space and just getting the correct answer without landing somewhere else on the board, and building up that multiplier that is possible in this game mode. And then another one was to beat your old score. So when you start this, if you try to go for the flawless achievement right off the bat without getting any answers wrong when you clear the board, I don't know if you can get this achievement. I just imagine it would be really difficult. But you can't. You have to beat your old score. So if you got a perfect score, I don't know how it would work if you're trying to beat it again. So the first game, I just went through, I just did really fast, landed on each wedge, so that I would get each achievement without not an achievement, get each objective without having a multiplayer attached to it. So I would just do that super quick. I think I also got the under 10 minutes achievement on that one as well. And then I just came in afterwards, beat the game, beat my score, super easy. It did take a long time to do this. Like I said, I tried to do it legit at first by just typing into Google, and I know some of you would be like, well, that's super cheating already. I'm not. Some of these questions are really difficult, and I mean, I think they're meant to be, but I would search some of these questions even, and it would essentially be a question from, I think this game came out in 2012. So the achievement would be, okay, who has 3 Oscars out of this list of people, and it would have, like, 4 people listed, and I'd search it up on Google, and it would say like 2 out of the 4 people had an Oscar, or 3 Oscars. I can't remember what the question was exactly. So then I would struggle, and I'd sit there and I'd go, okay, well, it's a 50-50 shot, and yes, I probably had more. If I had more time, I could have easily have looked, okay, when did this person win this Oscar? When did this person win the other Oscar? However, like I said, I didn't realize that you could unplug the controller and quickly, you could just quickly search it and have all the time in the world, which that helped immensely. However, that wasn't the only thing that I used. When I was doing this, I was finding that I, for some reason, was still getting some questions wrong. Mainly, like I said, the geography questions. I just couldn't, like, some of them were so close together, or like they would have multiple locations. Like an author would have maybe moved, and I didn't know which one to go with, because I mean, it seemed like it was, like, I don't know when they wrote the question. So that's what became very difficult. It wasn't like, hey, as of 2008, where did this person live? It just said, where does this author live? And then you'd have to guess where that author lived. But I did find another way to essentially beat the system to achieve that flawless victory, because I just was struggling so much. I spent an entire weekend trying to get a flawless victory and constantly starting over. So to do this, I found that as soon as you get a question wrong and it shows you what the correct answer is, you can just quickly turn off your console, and then once you turn up your console, go back into the game, it'll load you right back into the game, and you'll get that same question again. So as long as you made sure you know what the answer was after it told you, you can just go right through the game. And I think I had to use that twice in my flawless victory. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but it definitely helped me. And like I said, these questions aren't easy, and the fact that they're based on a different year was just really difficult to try to manage, or I didn't understand exactly what to research. But I mean, it's a fun game. I've enjoyed Trivial Pursuits. The achievements weren't super difficult. Nothing really stood out to me. The only one, like I said, was the flawless victory. But overall, it was super fun. Just a fun game to perfect, and really interesting to see how these old Trivial Pursuits worked. I think I've played a few lately, or not lately, but I've played a few newer ones. It might have been on console. It also might have just been on a PC or something of that nature, and they're always fun games, especially maybe when you're playing with friends. There's lots of trivial games like that, which is just super fun. So that brings me to the conclusion of Trivial Pursuit. Overall, it was a really fun game. Tested my knowledge, tested my Googling skills as well. It was definitely fun. I think it was a little outdated, and that made some of the questions difficult. And that's more just when you're going back to an Xbox 360 game, you should know that everything's going to be a little outdated. But I mean, it was fun. I would have really liked to play it with some friends, because I think playing these types of games are just fun. I don't know how many of you grew up playing board games. I'm just a big game person in general. I like competition. So when you get to play that with friends and you're competing with each other, it's really fun, and you can bring out your little jokes, your little jabs at each other, always trying to get the upper hand. And I think this game would be something like that. And it's also, I mean, you can even do teams. I mean, think about it that way. You could just have 2 players and have 2 teams, and have one person with the controller, and then the team convenes and is like trying to answer that question. I know some older people that I'm friends with would maybe really love these types of games, especially where the maybe it's topics that they know more about. Like right now, I can imagine if a game was like this in 2024, I can imagine the topics would be a lot about TikTok and maybe even things that I'm not up to date on. And I would just feel kind of old, I guess. But this game at the time, I mean, it seemed like the questions were really difficult. They weren't just super easy questions. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now that we're at the end of the episode, I'll give a little bit of a hint on the next episode. This next episode, it's another throwback. I believe it's remastered. It's something I used to play on Nintendo 64. It's a cult classic. A lot of people try to get their hands on this. A lot of people probably grew up playing it, seeking out. Maybe they've even seen how expensive it's become. It's a really fun game. I hadn't played through it entirely when I was a kid, because I only knew a few friends who had it. As I've gotten older, though, I have bought the game, and I do have a Nintendo 64, and I've played it. But it's really nice that I can see this game on Xbox and in the Game Pass and get to play it that way and get some achievements. I mean, I enjoy achievements, and what's better than playing a game that I remember playing when I was a kid? And I think this will be a fun one. Thanks everyone for joining me. I appreciate all the views, and I also just appreciate people who like getting achievements just like I do. Take a look at the screen and you can see me going through the list of achievements, just so you know I got all of them. The next video will come out, once again, it'll come out tomorrow. I've I had a backlog of videos just because of that Madagascar 2 video. But I hope you're excited for the next one, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave comments on anything you want to see, or any other games that you think are coming out that you would like to see. Have a good one, everyone.